Hey everyone, Kit here. So today I want to talk about lists and some helpful list methods, and then we're going to code up a simple script which just uses lists to change the colors of a square. So we're going to use a little graphic to apply what we've learned. So step one, I'm going to go to the terminal and I'm going to go to this file on my desktop called Python intro. So first head to the desktop and then head to Python intro. And then I'm going to create a new file which is going to be called list methods.py. All right, now I'm going to type code dot to move into my code editor, which today is VS Code. And when this loads up, you're going to see some of those other scripts that I worked on in the previous video tutorials, variables py and control flow py. But we are going to work with list methods right here, the file we just created. So I'm going to go ahead and reposition the window. I'm going to go ahead and raise the terminal up a little bit because for these early examples, the output I will be looking to receive is going to appear in the terminal. So step one, let's go ahead and create a list. So one way you can create a list is by typing it out this way and using square brackets. So a list, what it is it's a data type which holds multiple variables, and each of those variables is indexed by a numerical key, which starts at 0. So my first list is going to be called colors, and colors is going to hold a variety of string values, red, green, and blue. So 3 string values, and I'm going to print those out just so you can go ahead and see the list. So I'm going to save this file up, and then I'm going to move into the terminal. I'm going to run this in Python 3 methods.py. All right, and then when I run this thing, you'll see that the output in the terminal is red, green, and blue. Say I want to access that first value. What I would reference is its numerical key, and the numerical key for the first value is 0. So I can represent that by first saying the list name and then in square brackets after that key. So let's go ahead and save this up. I'll clear the terminal and I'll run this thing again. And you can see this time what I get is red. And if I was to go ahead and change this 0 to a 1, we would get the next value. So I'll save this up and run it. And you can see this time what's output here is green. So again, the first value is 0 indexed, so you always want to start counting from 0. It is possible for us to access the length of the list by using the len keyword. So we're going to go ahead and try that out. So I'm going to type in len and then colors to look at the length of this list and actually print it out. I'll clear my terminal. And when I run this thing, you can see it outputs a value of 3, but be careful with that because if you're looking to access that last value, you're going to want to minus 1 from that because we start counting at 0. Okay, so I want to talk about appending now. Say I want to add something to the end of this list. I can say colors.append, and I can include in the curved parentheses what I want to append. So in this case, it's going to be the value white in this case. All right, so now when I go ahead and print colors, the list colors that I'm building out, you'll see that if I run this, I'm highlighting it here, you'll see that white is tacked on to the end. And append works, so basically if I create another append statement right after and I can append in a different color, let's say orange, and save it, you'll see that now when I run this script again, I have orange tacked on to the end. So the opposite of append is pop. So I'm going to go ahead and well, I'll actually leave those 2 lines for you. What I'll do is I will use that same list, red, green, blue, but what I'm going to look to do is remove that very last item, and I can use the pop method. So I'm going to say colors, and then pop, open, close brackets to execute the method. And I'll print colors right at the end, and I'll clear the terminal and run this one more time, and you can see that the list is only composed of 2 items now because we popped one off the end. All right, and just like with append, where if I go ahead and just have multiple pop statements one after the other, as you would probably expect, we would knock off 2 items on the list. So with 2 pop statements, it removes blue and green, and we're left with just red. All right, so I'm going to clear this out now, and I will comment these 2 lines out here. So the next thing I want to talk about is reassigning a value. Let's say that I want to reassign this first item here, red, to something like purple. So what I would do is I would reference what position in the list I want to change. So for me, that would be colors and the first item at key 0. And I want that to now be purple. Okay, so now when I print this out and I run this, you'll see that the first item here in the terminal is showing purple, so I've effectively changed it or reassigned it in this way. And it would just be a matter of changing the number here if you really wanted to change it to a different item in the list. So I've made it 1 now, so we would expect green to change. So I'll go ahead and clear this, save my work, and run this one more time, and you can see now purple is put there. So you're not always going to want to reassign. Sometimes you're actually going to want to insert a value in. Let's say that I actually want to insert a value at the very front of my list. So I'm going to first comment this out. So for that, what I'm going to use is the insert method. So I'm going to say colors.insert, and I'm going to say insert at the very front, teal in this case. And where I want teal to be is at position 0. So I would reference that as the first argument within the inserts method. So let's go ahead and print this out. So I should see teal at the very front. I'm going to clear out my terminal and run this thing again. And you can see here I have teal at the front with no items removed. So therefore, that is the functionality of insert. Say that I want this to be in the middle. Let's say I want that at position 2. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, position 2. Let's go ahead and just do it like that. And let's go save this up and run this. And you can see now teal exists at index 2 within the list with nothing else removed. So that's the insert method for you right there. Now, there will be times that you want to remove things from the list. So let's go ahead and think about that briefly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and comment that out there. So the first thing I want to think about is what if I wanted to remove green specifically by name. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say colors.remove, move, and green. Okay, so here I'm removing it specifically by what the value of the variable is. So I'm going to go ahead and save this up and see if green gets removed. All right, so I have only 3 things in my list, and when I run this thing, you'll see that indeed it is removed. Now with remove, what's going to happen as is if I had multiple values with green in here, let's have a second one in here and save it up, you'll see that all the instances of green are removed. So I have 2 green values in there right now. If I go ahead and clear the terminal and things are saved up already, so I'm going to go ahead and run this, you'll see that all the instances of green are removed. So that's the remove method for you right there. And the final thing that I want to show you guys is the delete. And let's say delete a specific index. I'm not looking to delete based on the value of what's in the list. I'm looking actually just to delete a value at a specific key point. So let's say that I want to delete this at index 2 right here, which is blue. The way I can do that is I can say del, standing for delete, and I can mention that I want colors and the index 2. So this will go ahead and delete whatever I have at colors index 2, and we're printing colors out right after. So let's go ahead and check it out. We should have nothing, well, everything there except for blue, so it should be red, green, green. Let's try it out, and indeed, what we have is red, green, green. All right, so now that I've introduced you to a few list methods, definitely some helpful ones, I will go ahead and comment that out, leaving only the original list, and I'm going to make sure that each of these values are different. So red, green, blue, and let's just have orange right here. So now we're going to go ahead and create our actual project, which is going to use this list to change the color of a square. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is first import in a package, which is going to allow us to create some basic graphics, and that is called Tkinter. So I'm going to do import Tkinter. All right, so that's line 1 right there. What I then want to do is I want to initialize this little like graphic thing that's just going to pop up. And the first part of that is creating a variable to hold it, which I'm going to call root. And then I'm going to mention that library we just imported in Tkinter. And then I'm going to say, hey, I want a TK right there. Run the TK method. So here I'm initializing Tkinter and I'm saving it within root as a variable. The next thing that we want to do as far as setting up our graphics is we want to create a canvas to actually draw on. So I'm going to call this my canvas, and this is going to be equal to tkinter.canvas. Make sure this is capitalized too. Okay, and what we want to put in here is root. Okay, so root is referencing this variable that we have earlier. All right, so now afterwards, what we want to do is we want to just go ahead and show everything in the window. So we would just do my canvas.pack. So that's a little bit of a setup for this project, but it's definitely going to be worthwhile, as you're going to see. So we have our same list of colors right here. What I'd like to do under here now is I want to go ahead and create a rectangle on my canvas. All right, so I'm going to say my canvas, okay, like that, and then create rectangle like that. And inside here, we have to pass in a series of arguments. I'm going to say go ahead and create it at these coordinates with this width and this height. And this is where it's going to get a little fun. We're going to say that what we want here is the fill to equal what we have as our colors. And let's have it turn red first. So we're going to reference that at index 0 because red is the first value. And let's just go ahead and run this afterwards. So in order to get all of these graphics to render and appear on that little canvas thing, we have to go ahead and run it as a loop. So we're going to reference our variable root and we're going to say main loop like this. Okay. Once this is all saved up, I'm going to go ahead and run this thing and you will see that here we have a red square. All right, so I'm just going to move this slightly to the side here so we can kind of do this rapid fire. So there's our red square. And we want to access, say, this second value in the list. What we could do is we could just change here the index value to 1. And I'll save this up and close this. And running this again, you'll see that what we get is we get a green square. So what I'm trying to show here is that we're using a variable, which is a list, and then we can access those values by referencing its key. So let's go ahead and look at this very last item just to end this video. So to access orange, that is at the key value 0, 1, 2, and 3. So in here, what I'm going to say is I want to access the item at index 3. I closed it out. I'm going to save this and run this one last time, and you'll see that what we get in our little window is an orange square. So that's my little introduction to list methods and pulling some of that data from the list to throw it in a tkinter window to change the color of a rectangle. This is just the beginning, and I hope it was helpful. Thank you, everyone. Be well, be happy, be healthy, and happy learning. Thank you. Bye.